The Base Rock, or simply the Base, is an island in the outer part of the Firth of Forth in the east of Scotland, approximately 2 kilometres offshore, and 5 kilometres northeast of North Berwick. It is a steep-sided volcanic rock, 107 meters at its highest point, and is home to a large colony of gannets. The rock is currently uninhabited, but historically has been settled by an early Christian hermit, and later was the site of an important castle, which after the Commonwealth period was used as a prison. The island belongs to Sir Hew Hamilton-Dalrymple, whose family acquired it in 1706, and before to the Lauder family for almost 6 centuries. The Base Rock Lighthouse was constructed on the rock in 1902, and the remains of an ancient chapel survive. The Base Rock features in many works of fiction, including Robert Louis Stevenson's Katrina, and The Lion is Rampant by the Scottish novelist Ross Laidlaw. Geography and geology. The island is a volcanic plug of phenolitic trachyte rock of Carboniferous age. The rock was first recognized as an igneous intrusion by James Hutton, while Hugh Miller visited in 1847 and wrote about the rock's geology in his book Edinburgh and its Neighbourhood, Geological and Historical. With the geology of the Base Rock. The Base Rock stands over 100 meters high in the Firth of Forth Islands Special Protection Area, which covers some, but not all, of the islands in the inner and outer Firth. The Base Rock is a site of special scientific interest in its own right due to its gannet colony. It is sometimes called the Ailsa Craig of the East. It is of a similar geological form to nearby North Berwick, Lauder, a hill on the mainland. There are a couple of related volcanic formations within nearby Edinburgh, namely Arthur's Seat and Castle Rock. Much of the island is surrounded by steep cliffs and rocks, with a slope facing south-southwest which inclines at a steep angle. The base does not occupy the skyline of the Firth quite as much as its equivalent in the Clyde, Ailsa Craig, but it can be seen from much of southern and eastern Fife, most of East Lothian, and high points in the Lothians and borders, such as Arthur's Seat and the Lammermuir, surrounding islands. The base is one of a small string of islands off part of the East Lothian coast, which are some of the islands of the Forth. To the west are Craigleith and the Lamb, Fidra, and finally to the west of Fidra, the low-lying island of Ibrowie. These are also mainly the result of volcanic activity. To the northeast can be seen the Isle of May off the coast of the East Neuk of Fife. History. The island was a retreat for early Christian hermits. St. Baldred is said to have lived there in 600 AD. The Lauder family, the earliest recorded proprietors of the Lauder of the Base family, from whom Sir Harry Lauder is descended. According to legend, the island is said to have been a gift from King Malcolm III of Scotland. The crest on the heraldic arms is, appropriately, a gannet sitting upon a rock. The family had from an early date a castle on the island. Sir Robert de Lauder is mentioned by Blind Harry in the Actes and Deeds of the illustre and valiant Campionshire William Wallace as a compatriot of William Wallace, and Alexander Nisbet recorded his tombstone in 1718 in the floor of the old kirk in North Berwick. Here lies Sir Robert de Lauder, great laird of the Base, who died May 1311. 5 years later his son received that part of the island which until then had been retained by the church because it contained the holy cell of St. Baldred. A century on Wintown's Chronicle relates, in 1406 King Robert III, apprehensive of danger to his son James from the Duke of Albany, placed the youthful prince in the safe custody of Sir Robert Lauder in his secure castle on the Base prior to an embarkation for safer parts on the continent. Subsequently, says Tiddler, Sir Robert Lauder of the Base was one of the few people whom King James I admitted to his confidence. Quote, In 1424 Sir Robert Lauder of the base, with 18 men, had a safe conduct with a host of other noblemen, as a hostage for James I of Durham. J.J. Reid also mentions that, in 1424 when King James I returned from his long captivity in England, he at once consigned to the castle of the base, Walter Stewart, the eldest son of Murdoch Stewart, Duke of Albany, his cousin. The person who received the payments for the prisoners' support was Sir Robert Lauder, whom Tytler further describes as a firm friend of the king. Hector Boyce offers the following description: "Ein wonderful crag, risand within the sea, with so narrow and straight howls that nor ship nor boat bot allenly attain part of it. This crag is called the bar, unwinnable by engine of man. In it are coves, else profitable for defensive men as they were big at be crafty industry. Everything that is in that crag is full of admiration and wonder." Royal visits. In 1497 King James IV visited the base and stayed in the castle with the later Sir Robert Lauder of the base. The boatmen who conveyed the king from Dunbar were paid 14 shillings. George Lauder of the base entertained King James VI of Scotland when he visited the base in 1581. The king was so enamoured that he offered to buy the island, a proposition which did not commend itself to George Lauder. The king appears to have accepted the situation with good grace. George was a privy councillor, described as the king's familiar counsellor and tutor to the young Prince Henry. Famous prisoners. During the 15th century James I consigned several of his political enemies, including Walter Stewart, to the base. In this period, many members of the clan Mackay ended up here, including Neil Bass Mackay, who gained his epithet from being imprisoned there as a 14-year-old in 1428. He was kept there as a hostage, after his father, Eomer's Dove of Strathnaver in Sutherland, was released as security. According to one website, following the murder of King James at Perth in 1437, Neil escaped from the base and was proclaimed 8th chief of the clan Mackay. Cromwellian invasion, and after almost 600 years, the Lauders lost the base during Cromwell's invasion, and the castle subsequently became a notorious jail to which for many decades religious and political prisoners, especially Covenanters such as Prophet Pedden, were sent. John Blackadder, one of the Covenanting martyrs, died on the base in 1686 and is buried at North Berwick, where a United Free Church was named after him. Charles Maitland, 3rd Earl of Lauderdale, held the base for James VII for a brief period after the Scottish Parliament declared his abdication. The fortress was destroyed by the government in 1701, and on the 31st of July 1706 the President of the Court of Session, Hew Dalrymple, Lord North Berwick, acquired the base by charter, for a purely nominal sum, and the island has been ever since in the uninterrupted possession of the Dalrymple family. Description: Castle. Not far above the landing place the slope is crossed by a curtain wall, which naturally follows the lie of the ground, having sundry projections and round bastions where a rocky projection offers a suitable foundation. The parapets are battlemented, with the usual walk along the top of the walls. Another curtain wall at right angles runs down to the sea close to the landing place, ending in a ruined round tower, whose vaulted base has poorly splayed and apparently rather unskillfully constructed embrasures. The entrance passes through this outwork wall close to where it joins the other. The main defences are entered a little farther on in the same line, through projecting two-story building which has some fireplaces with very simple and late mouldings. The buildings are of the local basalt, and the masonry is rough rubble. There are, as is so frequently the case, no very clear indications for dating the different parts, which were in all probability erected at different times. A little beyond the entrance there is a tower that that formed a simple bastion into which has been added a gabled chamber in the 17th century, which, though of restricted dimensions, must have been comfortable enough, with blue Dutch tiles round its moulded fireplace, now very much decayed. Well and chapel. During the 16th and 17th centuries there was sufficient grass present for 100 sheep to graze. The freshwater well was right at the top of the island, where today the Foghorn is situated. Halfway up the island stands the ruin of St Baldred's Chapel, which is sited upon a cellar cave in which the Scottish saint spends some time. Although the Lauders held most of the base rock, this part of it had remained in the ownership of the church until 1316, when it was granted to the family. The chapel appears to have been rebuilt by the Lauder family several times. A papal bull dated the 6th of May 1493 refers to the parish church of the base, or the chapel of St Baldred, being no vita erecta at the time. On the 5th of January 1542 we find John Lauder, son of Sir Robert Lauder of the base, KNT, as the Cardinal's secretary, representing Cardinal David Beaton at a reconsecration of the restored and ancient St Baldred's Chapel on the base. In 1576 it is recorded that the church on the base, and that at Oldham on the mainland, required no readers, doubtless something to do with the Reformation. Wildlife. The island plays host to more than 150,000 gannets and is the world's largest colony of northern gannets, described famously by naturalists as one of the wildlife wonders of the world. It was also awarded BBC Countryfile magazine's Nature Reserve of the Year, following a nomination by Chris Packham in 2014-15. When viewed from the mainland, large regions of the surface appear white due to the sheer number of birds. In fact, the scientific name for the northern gannet, Sula bisanuromorus basinus, derives its name from the rock. It was known traditionally in Scots as a Solent goose. In common with other gannetries, such as St Kilda, the birds were harvested for their eggs and the flesh of the young chicks, which were considered delicacies. It is estimated that in 1850 almost 2,000 birds were harvested from the rock. Other bird species that frequent the rock include guillemot, razorbill, cormorant, puffin, eider duck and numerous gulls. The natural history of the rock was written about almost 500 years ago in John Mayer's Digestis Scotorum, published in 1521. Today, the Scottish Seabird Centre at North Berwick has solar-powered cameras located on the island which beam back live close-up images of the seabirds to large screens on the mainland, just over a mile away. The images are sharp enough for visitors at the Scottish Seabird Centre to read the ID rings on birds' feet. The Seabird Centre has a range of cameras located on the islands of the Forth and also broadcasts the images live on the internet. The centre also has exclusive landing rights to the island from the owner Sir Hew Hamilton-Dalrymple and operates range of boat trips going around and landing on the islands throughout the year, weather permitting. Plants. The soil is fertile and supports a wide variety of plants. These include the base mallow, which is otherwise only found on a few other islands, including Ailsa Craig and Steep Home. Proverb. An old saying has the following: "This meant to do something impossible."